So I want to visit a question that I've asked before here at Renaissance Unity several times, but I just want to start it off with revisiting this question. And the question is this: how many of you think, wow, we are really living in some unique times? And how many of you are saying, wow, I keep hearing there could be some challenges ahead if we don't find the answer? Yeah. What's the answer? What's the answer? Maybe a more refined question might be, what's going on energetically on our planet, in the cosmos, and in my life? Are we really moving into a new day and a new way? Is there really a new way? Are we really being called at this time to integrate into our lives and into humanity a whole new way? You know, I think every metaphysician you'd read since the late 1800s, they all thought that they were living right in the middle of it, right? You aware of that? I mean, go back and you read Fillmore or Emmett Fox or whoever it might be, they say, you're living right in the middle of it. But it seems like to me that we're living right in the middle of it, right? So the question is, as we move into our new day, can I still know the life of my heart? Can I still know the life of my heart, even though it looks as though there may be some challenges ahead? Florence Scovel Shinn says in her book, The Game of Life and How to Play It, fear is misdirected energy which must be redirected or transmuted into faith. And then she says this: the object of the game of life is to see clearly one's good and to obliterate all other pictures of anything in opposition to the good. What it actually says is obliterate all pictures of evil. So that's what we're going to look at this morning. How is it that we can always see our good? Is there a spiritual way that no matter what's going on the planet, no matter what's going on in my life, that I can see my good and step into it? How many of you believe that there is an aspect of you, a larger aspect of you, a larger aspect of your wholeness that's actually out there preparing the way for you? Are you with me? There is. There is. There is indeed a greater whole of you that it already knows what's highest for you and for all of us. And the key this morning is just to begin to awaken in greater ways to that truth. How many of you like to explore that in greater depth this morning? I'm glad you said yes, because this is what I got prepared. How many of you have been at that point where you just said, oh, Lord, I'd follow you to that new day, that new way. If I just knew where I was to go, I'd do it. You ever been there? Yeah, that place where you're just like, just show me the way. I'll go. Show me. Yeah, I think we've all been there. You know, the title of this talk this morning is Detached, Set Free, What's Next? And we're really playing off that service last week where Reverend Sander and Jeannie and the RU band just blessed us with this beautiful service where we practiced that burning bowl and we really became detached, and it set us free. And then, you know, we put in that envelope just what we see next for our life. But what I'm inviting us to see this morning is that maybe that is just what's next for you. Maybe that is. Maybe as you start walking toward it, you'll see that part of you is out ahead of you that sees the larger perspective and has something even better. Has something even better. Something even better than your current perception of your good is able to see at this point. In our evolutionary journeys, there's a key that we must never forget. I think it's especially true for us new thoughters, if I could call us new thoughters this morning. You all right with that? Yeah. And you find this from the Gnostic that wrote this Gospel of John in 3:8. And it says this: the wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but cannot tell where it comes from and where it goes, so it is of everyone who is born of the Spirit. So it is of everyone who is awake in the new moment. In other words, in our awakening, if we pay attention, a larger aspect of ourselves is out in front of us, and we may not even know what it's doing, and it just shows up, and it requires us to change our focus as we begin to notice it. Are you open to that? Yeah. See, in New Thought, we have to also remember to stay flexible, to stay loose around the edges. You know, I love the teachings of unity and New Thought where, you know, we can really use our understanding to experience a better life, and that we can really begin to realize in greater and greater ways that we are empowered creators, and we can envision a life and realize it. I love that about unity. There's nothing wrong with that. The times, though, if you look close at that, sometimes we may be using it to protect ourselves. Sometimes we may be using that like, if I get that, I'll be happy. If I get that, I'll be safe. Right? We have to pay attention to that too. Think about that. We can use these manifestations in that way. But there's something greater at play here that's taking us into realizing more of our whole selves and realizing even more of our empowerment and becoming even yet better manifestors. You know, I love what the great metaphysician Neville Goddard said. He says, how material, wealthy one is hasn't a thing to do with one's spiritual evolution or maturity, but why not use the laws of manifesting and live life here on this plane a little more comfortable? Count me in, right? Yeah. Why not become knowledgeable of these laws and just use that to live your life a little more comfortable? Why not become more and more aware of the power of our intention? Absolutely. But this morning, I want to look at something more than that was really going to take us to where that greater aspect of ourself that's out in front of us is taking us. You know, have you ever been that time where you're just starting to realize, my soul wants a little more? You know, this pattern that I'm in is just, it's not quite as satisfying as it used to be. The things that I've manifested just aren't quite as satisfying. There must be more of myself. There must be more of my divine potential to discover. And it's time for me to become aligned with that greater part of me. If you are at this point, the good news is, as I said, as you move into that, as you take your focus just away from what you're trying to manifest and really to what the Spirit is at work in your life, the good news is, as you integrate more and more of yourself through that process, you become even better manifestors. Okay? So let's listen to that again. The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but you cannot tell where it comes from and where it goes. So it is of everyone who is born of the Spirit. So it is of everyone awake to the new moment. So it is with everyone whose soul that is rising. You know, I have a book that I visited this week because as I was preparing this talk, it came to me. I remember reading this in this book. How many are familiar with this book, Oneness? I actually got this week out of the library in there. It's a book received and transcribed by Rasha. And it's just a powerful book. If you've never visited it, you might want to put that one on your list. But in her book, she's received this information. And this is what she writes on page 26. It's in a chapter, it says, a glimpse into the experience of ascending. A glimpse into the experience of actually rising high in consciousness where you see more than you saw before. You see more of the good for your life than you ever saw before. Okay? This is what she writes. In the process of integrating more of our whole self into our lives, and in the process of transcending one's prior focus, there is, hear this part. I'm going to read it through, and I'm going to get to that part where I said, hear this part. Are you with me? Yeah. in the process of integrating more of our whole self, more of your whole self into your lives, and in the process of transcending one's prior focus, there is no need to direct the process with our intent. Are you with me? Sometimes when we're intending from a perspective of where we're at. But there's a part of you that's out ahead of you that sees a much broader perspective for your life, that sees good beyond what you can ever currently imagine. And so she's calling us into that. She goes on to write in this same section about being aware of guidance in nature. One sense is in the absolute receptivity of surrendering totally on every possible level the need, the compulsion to control the process. One becomes a leaf on the wind, embodying a willingness to be carried with the momentum of the process, knowing unquestionably that one's best interest and one's well-being are seen in every way. In this way of navigating life, one is able to ride the energy of momentum in the direction of the momentum, and one unites momentum and form. One unites momentum and manifestations. There's a part of you that's out there preparing the way for you for even greater good than you can imagine. And then she writes this. This goes back to the opening of this talk. She says, as she's received this information, this is the direction you are headed in these times. Can you see we're living in this world right now? I mean, you know, they always say when you're going to transcend something and move past it, the old will amplify itself. It will absolutely magnify itself. Can you see we are living in the age of information and that it's magnifying itself in a way you can't even hardly imagine? I mean, when you say now I have that information at the click of my finger, you have it. You have it. You have artificial intelligence right there, right now. But what this is saying, when you see that amplifying like that, it's telling you that you're ready to evolve, you know, the prefrontal cortex and learn a whole new way of navigating your life and humanity's life. That's the answer. That's the answer. And then she goes on and she writes, the opportunity is in turning over the reins that would govern momentum and direction and to experience the perfection of the ride. Setting your intent is not required for awakening and integrating more of your whole self. Pay attention. Don't get locked down on your prior focus. Don't get locked down on it. Leave it a little loose around the edges. I think it's Abraham Hicks always says, keep it general. Keep it general, right? You ever hear her say those words? Keep it general. Yeah. Yeah. You know, we're meant to unfold as surely as a seed is meant to unfold, just like a tree. A tree evolves in ways you can't even predict, right? And so it is with us. Now listen to what Charles Fillmore says about this same John 3:8, where the wind, the Spirit blows where it wishes. This chapter of John contains some of the vital truths taught, he actually says in Christianity, but it's the vital truths. It's just the vital truth. It says of the evolution of man from natural consciousness to spiritual consciousness, from 3D consciousness to 4 and 5D consciousness. This is what John 3:8 is teaching us. That really, to transcend our limitations doesn't require setting our intention. It requires us being totally empty, totally surrendered, totally available to listening and noticing what's next. Christianity, goes on to write, teaches the complete law of evolution as compared with partial expositions of the law made by Darwin and Associate. When men and women recognize their identity as being that of their source, spirit, they expand in divine order and bring forth only good. They bring forth only good. The object of the game of life is to see clearly one's good, and it's in the wind. It's in the wind. It's that old song from the 60s, "The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind." That just came to me. You know, there's a story in the Gospels that just illustrates this, and we've visited this here before at Renaissance, and it's a story of this guy who realizes all this success from 3D consciousness, right? I mean, he becomes very wealthy, and he's really figured out how to use 3D consciousness and just become extremely wealthy. And so he comes to Jesus, and he's just realizing as he's watching Jesus, he's realizing, oh, there's a little something else going on here, right? I mean, there's a lot of people talking about there's something else going on. I'm noticing it too. And he's probably at that point, I'm paraphrasing a little, I'm at top of my game, but it's just not all that satisfying anymore. My soul wants more. And Jesus, you've got it. In other words, the way we would say that in unity is, my inner being's got it, right? Call it what you will. In fact, we had that song playing this morning as we came in the sanctuary. So he comes to one who really knows how to play the game of life. He comes to one who knows spirit is most interested in our ascension of our consciousness. That's who he's come to. Someone that knows that, who lives their life that way. Spirit is most interested in our ascension of our consciousness. That was what was next for Jesus, and that's what's next for you and me. Always what's next. I mean, this title of this talk. Sometimes I get a little excited, don't I? Is what's next? What's next is your ascension. You know, I read this week a quote, and it really is this great quote about keeping our focus on our ascension and our journey, and to not let ourselves get distracted by the news and circumstances in our life or anyone else, to just stay centered. And you know, when I read that quote, I said, I got to find a way to work that into the talk. I'm not even sure it works into the flow real good, but I had to get it out. So the quote is this: it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. I'll read that again. It's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. When you're cursing the darkness, you are filling yourself with possessions. You're not empty at that point. You're not going to see the good clearly for your life. You're blocking your view. You just are. And that is out there so big right now. It's only going to amplify more. Remember that. Stay empty. Light your candle. Live your radiance, whatever that is. So this man comes to Jesus, and essentially what he says is, stop trying to figure out, how to get your life into safety and all these things that you want in your life by using your mind, by using all this knowledge. This is what he tells him. And he goes on to tell him that, really, here's the way you can actually realize what your heart, your soul is really looking for. And so it goes like this. Jesus said to this man, who actually asked him, how can I inherit eternal life? It's like, I got all this money, but now I better make sure the rest of it's okay when I get out of here, right? This is the consciousness he's in. And Jesus said to him, if you would be perfect, in other words, the wholeness of your multidimensional self integrated into you the way it is into me, if you're looking for that, then go sell all your possessions, give to the poor, and you will have treasures in heaven, and come follow me. Remember that follow me is your inner being. Did you hear that? You'll have treasures in heaven when it came in that? When you sold your possessions, your thoughts about yourself, your thoughts about others, your thoughts about everything that's going on, how it's going to turn out. All that. Sell all that. Notice he didn't say give it away. He said sell it. Why did he say sell it? Because you're going to get something in return for it. You're going to be able to see clearly what's next for your life. Are you with me? It's that powerful. It's that powerful. So he says, go sell all your possessions and give to the poor. In other words, enter into a state of oneness, where you know that to freely receive and freely give, you have to be in both natures, as one, with one another. and then come follow me. Are you with me? It's that powerful. It really is. You're looking to manifest the good in your life. Do you know what the word manifest means? It means to make obvious. To make obvious. In other words, your good is already there. All you have to do is stay in the state to see clearly. So sell your possessions. Become a generous giver. Become a generous receiver as well. And number 3, notice then that you have treasures and come follow me. Come follow that part of yourself that's out in front of yourself, already preparing the way. Where's it going? It's going to rising higher in consciousness. It's going to integrate more of your being. Now the thing is, what's that nature like? That something out in front of me is preparing something for me. How can I know it? Well, when it's out in front of you, preparing your way for you, it's like all of a sudden you see something and you go, wow, something else had been putting that together. It's the only way it could be, right? And you begin to see, wow, that way is really easy. There's really a flow to it. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. And then you also begin to see that, you know what? That's exactly as my heart wanted it. You know, the open heart is the same exact thing as the kingdom of heaven. When you're in that open heart space, you begin to see exactly what your heart wants. And then the key is to seize it. When you see something like that with the nature of that, seize it. You want to know how to seize it? Want to know how to seize it? Come next week, and we're going to talk about seizing what's next in your life. Next week, seizing what's next in your life. Namaste. Namaste.